Alone at home, the shocking truth behind the billionaire's black maid dark revelation at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3 in the morning, echoing through the sprawling mansion like a warning bell. Every shadow stretched across the walls, clutching at the corners, and the air felt more alive than ever. Zoe, the billionaire's black maid, was supposed to be elbow-deep in her nightly chores, but tonight was different. A chill ran down her spine as she pushed the heavy door to the study, her heart thrumming like a caged bird. There was something off about this room. Her pulse quickened, sensing a presence that made her skin crawl, her senses heightened, the soft whir of the air conditioner felt like whispers, conversations darting around her. Why was the light flickering? Each blink sent eerie shadows skittering across the polished wooden floor. She shook her head, dismissing the wave of unease. After all, she was just the maid. But wasn't there something odd about the old portraits lining the walls? Their eyes seemed to follow her, a silent jury judging her every move. Then, a creak. A sudden sound shattered the silence, making her jump. It came from the hallway, right outside the door. Her breath hitched. There was no one else in the house. The billionaire was away on yet another extravagant business trip. Who or what could possibly be lurking at this hour? Clutching her trusty flashlight, she edged toward the door, the cool metal sending a shiver through her hand. As she cracked the door open, a gust of chilly wind swept in, swirling around her like a ghost escaping its confines. The hallway was dark and empty, but something glinted at the far end. Was it eyes staring back at her, or was her mind playing tricks in the shadows? Zoe felt a weight in her chest, an unmistakable tension that came before something big was about to happen. She had to know what that was. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Heart racing, she stepped into the hallway, her breath shallow. The glimmering light drew her closer, revealing details of the decor, cobwebs dangling like long-forgotten secrets. It was as if the house itself held its breath, entreating her with the weight of its unspoken mysteries. Zoe moved cautiously, feeling an undeniable force pull her toward the unknown. This wasn't just about cleaning anymore. This was an invitation into the depths of hidden truths, and she didn't know if she was ready for what was waiting. The looming darkness caressed her skin with a cold grip, while the glint of light flickered teasingly as she got closer. Was it a reflection of something more sinister? A shiver trailed down her spine as she drew nearer, aware that every footstep echoed like thunder in her ears. What secret could the mansion be holding? What had she stumbled into? As Zoe reached for the door at the end of the hall, a sense of dread washed over her. What lay beyond would change everything forever. As Zoe's fingers hovered over the doorknob, her heart pounded harder, each thud echoing in the taut silence. Goosebumps rose on her arms as she steeled herself. What lurked on the other side? Would it be a secret or a threat? With one swift motion, she twisted the knob and pushed the door open. The hinges creaked, an ominous welcome. The room inside was dim, illuminated only by the faint glow of an old desk lamp sitting atop a massive mahogany desk. Piles of papers were scattered haphazardly, a chaotic landscape amidst the sleek lines of expensive furniture. But it wasn't the mess that caught her eye. It was the sight of a figure hunched over the desk. Her breath caught in her throat. "Hello?" she called nervously, feeling her voice tremble. The figure slowly turned, and in that moment, a spark of recognition flared in her mind. It was Mrs. Whitaker, the billionaire's elderly mother. The matriarch had moved into a nursing home months ago. Why was she here? Zoe's instincts screamed at her to run, to shut the door and lock herself away. But instead, she stepped inside, compelled by an overwhelming need to understand. "Zoe, Mrs. Whittaker said, her voice raspy, almost a whisper, "I have been waiting for you." "Waiting for me?" Zoe frowned, confusion gnawing at her. "What are you doing here?" The old woman motioned to the papers scattered across the desk. "You have to see this, it's important." Zoe hesitated but approached the desk tentatively. The papers were covered in swirling scripts and strange symbols. Her heart raced as she recognized some of them. These weren't just random notes. They looked like financial records, but with something else scribbled alongside names that sent chills down her spine. "What is all this?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Secrets." Mrs. Whittaker's eyes sparkled with an unsettling intensity. "Your employer isn't who he claims to be. He is hiding a legacy that could destroy him." Zoe's mind spun. In all her years working here, she'd seen nothing but lavish events and a glamorous lifestyle. What could possibly be lurking beneath such a polished surface? "Please, you need to listen to me," Mrs. Whittaker continued, her voice trembling. "This family is cursed. Choices were made, deals struck. And now a loud crash echoed through the mansion, startling them both. Zoe's pulse raced as the sound reverberated down the hall. It was like a cannon shot in the silence, breaking the uneasy tension. What was that? Zoe scrambled to her feet, her instincts kicking in. Mrs. Whittaker's gaze darted toward the door. "We need to hide. You have to get out of here." Panic surged through Zoe as she grabbed the papers. She stuffed them hastily into her apron pocket, her mind churning. In her world, every decision mattered. A slip could cost her everything, even her life. "Stay quiet," she urged, dropping her voice to a whisper as they moved behind the door. Zoe leaned against the cold wood, ears straining to catch any movement. What was waiting out there? Was it connected to Mrs. Whittaker's frantic warning? Her heart raced as she held her breath, a bead of sweat trickling down her back. Suddenly, the door handle rattled violently. "Zoe!" A deep voice called from the hallway, sending a thrill of terror shooting through her. It was the billionaire. "Zoe, I know you're in there." The words hung heavily in the air. What could he possibly want at this hour? Had he found out about her discovery? The door creaked open slightly, light spilling in like a beacon of danger. The tension mounted. Zoe was caught in a moment of choice. Should she reveal herself or stay hidden? With a pounding heart, she took one deep breath, knowing the consequences would be monumental. Zoe pressed her back against the door, pulse racing like a runaway train. She could feel every beat throbbing in her ears, drowning out Mrs. Whittaker's frantic whispers. The door creaked ever so slightly, her heart leaping into her throat. What do I do? A thought lingered, but there wasn't time for indecision. "Please, Zoe," Mrs. Whittaker urged, urgency lining her voice. "You can't let him see those papers. Everything depends on it." As if on cue, the door swung wide, revealing the billionaire. His amber eyes glinted with a fierce determination, darkness wrapping around him like a cloak. "Zoe," he called again, a layer of menace in his tone. "There you are. I've been looking for you." Zoe's breath hitched as she fought the instinct to flee. Instead, she lifted her head, trying to summon courage. "What do you want?" she managed to say, her voice steadier than she felt. An unsettling smile crept across his face, revealing teeth that didn't match his charming exterior. "We need to talk about loyalty and betrayal." She blinked, mind racing through possibilities. The words hung between them, heavy and suffocating. Behind her, Mrs. Whittaker shifted uncomfortably, the urgency of the moment pressing down on them both. "Come out, Zoe. I want to ask again." His voice hardened, and the gentleness vanished like smoke in the wind. In that pitch of panic, Zoe seized on the old woman's pleading eyes. "No, you don't understand," she stammered, hands trembling as they clutched the edge of the desk. "I was just cleaning. I didn't mean to intrude. Just thought. His expression twisted, amusement turning into simmering rage. You think simply cleaning is enough? You don't even belong here. No. The word erupted from her mouth, fueled by a surge of adrenaline. There are things you don't want me to find. Things that enough. He interrupted, his voice like thunder. Get out from behind that door, Zoe, or you'll regret it. Zoe's heart raced as she glimpsed every option swirling in her mind, each one more untenable than the last. The truth she'd unearthed felt like treachery sizzling beneath her skin, and yet she clutched it like a lifeline. I'm not afraid of you. She shot back, trembling yet defiant. You're hiding things, and I won't let you silence me. Not this time. This time, the billionaire's laugh was cold and mocking. You think you're brave? Courage comes with consequence. The air crackled with tension, a storm building between them. Let her go. Mrs. Whittaker's voice rang out, startling both of them. Stay out of this. He bellowed, his focus narrowing in on Zoe. The room felt smaller, the distance between them charged with electric threat. Zoe knew she was at a crossroads. The papers tugged heavily at the pocket of her apron, aching to be unveiled. Was this the moment to expose the secrets lying in that crumpled mess? Before she could decide, the blaring sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Shouts and commands rang out, unmistakably drawing closer. He's coming. Mrs. Whittaker gasped, eyes wide with dread. You need to hide. Panic surged through Zoe again as the billionaire's face darkened, trapped in that moment where every choice could ignite a catastrophe. As the footsteps crescendoed, Zoe faced the billionaire one last time. What are you so afraid of? She challenged, voice steady, even as dread twisted in her stomach. With a manic glint in his eyes, he took a step forward. Reveal the truth, Zoe, he whispered, and you'll lose everything. What did he know that she didn't? In that heartbeat, chaos erupted, doors flew open, and she knew her only chance was to run. As she dashed toward the door just as it burst open, a hail of shadow moved behind her. In that breathless moment, she had no idea of the danger waiting outside. Was it freedom or a trap? Zoe plunged forward, heart hammering, the precarious balance of truth and deception ticking down to a harrowing climax. And as she fled, one chilling thought lingered: who was really waiting for her in the dark? Zoe's feet barely touched the floor as she hurtled into the hallway, the pounding of her heart drowning out the chaotic crescendo behind her. The billionaire's chilling words echoed in her mind, reveal the truth, and you'll lose everything. She skidded to a halt, the world blurring around her. The narrow corridor stretched into darkness, layered shadows swallowing the floor and walls. Desperate, she glanced back. The door slammed shut with a resounding thud, muffling the chaos in the room behind her. But freedom wasn't guaranteed. A rustle pierced the silence, and she turned to see two figures advancing toward her from the flickering light at the end of the hallway, the shadowy silhouettes of guards, their expressions hardened, muscles coiled and ready. Stop! One barked. Cold authority chilled her bones as she hesitated, panic igniting inside her chest. Zoe, come with us, said the other, his voice flat and commanding. The boss wants to see you. Just behind them, she could see the outline of the billionaire moving like a ghost, looming in the shadows, his presence a dark stain on the edge of her vision. No! She declared, her voice breaking through the tension like a needle through silk. I'm not going anywhere. The guards exchanged glances, a fleeting moment of surprise. How could she stand there with such defiance? She gathered the courage pulsing through her veins before she took a step back, knowing that retreat was her only option. With her focus pinpointed on the stairwell leading to the back exit, she darted to her right. The laughter of the billionaire chased her like a predator, a low rumble that sent shivers down her spine. You think you can escape, Zoe? Those papers won't save you. Her mind raced, replaying every scenario, every secret she had stumbled upon in her quest for the truth. Just moments earlier, the weight of the papers had felt like a promise, and now they transformed into chains that could bind her. Ignoring the shouts behind her, she flung herself toward the stairwell, the familiar spiral leading down into the uncertainty below. The well-worn steps creaked beneath her feet as she descended into darkness. She could hear them behind her, echoes of urgency, their breaths shallow like wolves on her trail. At the bottom of the stairs, instinct kicked in. She crouched low, hearts pounding, listening as the footsteps grew louder. Then silence. Did they lose her? Timidly, Zoe crept forward, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. The space was vast, filled with the remnants of forgotten dreams, covered furniture, peeling wallpaper, and barely lit corners that seemed to hold memories of their own. But there were no safe corners here, only hiding places that would swallow her whole. A faint glimmer caught her eye from a nearby window, moonlight filtering through grime, casting an ethereal glow over an old box tucked in the corner. Without thinking, she sprinted toward it, heart racing as she reached down. Inside, she found stacks of dusty papers, each one a testament to secrets long buried. Suddenly, a voice shattered the silence. "You can't run forever, Zoe." The billionaire's tone was ice-cold, resonating off the walls like a death knell. Zoe's heart sank as she froze, the box trembling in her hands. "Just give me the papers, and this will all be over," he promised, each word dripping with deceit. She hesitated, knowing that the truth she held could cost her everything. But if she didn't expose him, what could that mean for Mrs. Whittaker, and others like her? The shadows twisted menacingly as the guards were closing in again, their footsteps ominously close. "Find her," the billionaire commanded, his voice sharp enough to cut through the air. Without a clear path out, the options swirled again. Hide? Fight? Or risk it all and reveal the truth? Zoe's breath quickened as she made a decision. With every heartbeat, the walls seemed to close in, pressing against her chest. Clutching the box tightly, she bolted toward the darkness, the weight of knowledge guiding her steps, and just when she thought she was alone, she heard something, a whisper on the wind, words meant just for her. "You have no idea what you're about to uncover." What secrets lay hidden within the papers, waiting to burst forth like a flood? Or would the flickering shadows claim her before she could uncover the truth? Zoe dashed deeper into the darkened room, strands of dust swirling in the faint light that dared to break through the grimy window. Her heart raced, each beat a drum warning her to keep moving. The billionaire's words echoed relentlessly in her mind, urging her to reconsider her course. Fear twisted like a knife in her gut. She couldn't let herself think. Thinking led to doubt. As she spun around, she spotted the door at the end of the vast space. Hope flared momentarily, igniting a flicker of determination within her. But before she could spring into action, a sudden crash echoed through the silence. The guards had followed her descent and they were gaining ground. "Zoe!" one of them shouted, his voice slicing through the air like a blade. "You can't hide forever." Gritting her teeth, Zoe forced herself toward the door. The box of papers felt like a lead weight in her hands, but there was no time to consider the decision. Was she brave or foolhardy? Would she expose the truth or let fear dictate her next steps? She huffed out a breath, pushing the conflicting thoughts aside. Just as she reached the door, something caught her eye. A half-empty bottle of chemicals sat on a nearby shelf, mystery and danger glistening inside. Inspiration struck. Zoe grabbed the bottle, knowing the guards were moments from reaching her. She twisted open the cap and hurled the contents toward the doorway in her wake, barely avoiding a splatter on her own clothes. The guards skidded to a stop, stumbling back as the noxious mixture burst upon them, filling the air with a choking stench. She heard their curses, the sounds of someone fumbling to regain control. "Let us go!" Zoe shouted at the empty space ahead, willing herself to run faster. She burst through the door, emerging into another darkened hallway. This one felt narrower and more confined, like the walls themselves were closing in on her. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she realized how desperately she needed an escape. The flicker of a light bulb overhead hummed ominously. Zoe sprinted forward, following the glow. As she rounded a corner, a figure stepped into her path. Zoe halted suddenly, heart leaping into her throat. It was the billionaire, his features carved sharply against the shadows. "I see you made it this far," he said, a twisted smile stretching across his lips. "But now you face a choice." Every instinct urged her to retreat, but resolve hardened in her chest. "I won't let you manipulate me," she shot back, positioning the box defensively as if it could somehow shield her from his gaze. He chuckled, the sound dry and sinister. "You think you hold the power? Those papers only tell part of the story. You don't know what you're getting into if you plan to expose me." Before she could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind, a relentless reminder of the guards on her trail. The billionaire turned, momentarily distracted. Zoe seized the chance and darted past him, adrenaline propelling her forward into the unknown. She exploded through another door, emerging into a room filled with even more shadows and junk. Old machines and furniture lay strewn about, remnants of another time. Without thinking, she ducked behind an ancient desk, breathless and alive with fear. Zoe pressed her back against the cool wood, straining to hear the chaos outside. The guards were searching. She could hear them arguing, desperation tinged with anger bleeding through their words. "I thought we had her," one growled. "And we will." The billionaire's voice carried a chilling edge. "She can't escape the truth." As she crouched there, trembling, Zoe felt a weight settle on her chest. The papers in her hands felt alive, pulsing with secrets waiting to be revealed. She couldn't allow herself to be captured, not now, not when she was so close. But then the door creaked open, the light spilling into her shadowed hideout. There were two silhouettes in the doorway. "We'll find you, Zoe," one of the guards taunted, stepping tentatively into the room. Panic surged through her veins. She was running out of time. With no clear path ahead, she closed her eyes for a brief moment, weighing her options. Fight or flight? And in that moment, the papers slipped from her grasp, cascading to the floor, a testament to the truth she promised to uncover. As the first sheet fell, the guards stepped closer, their eyes glinting with menace. Would they be the ones to unearth the truth before her? Zoe took a deep breath, knowing the answer lay within the papers. She turned over to fate. She was running out of time, and choices. Would she be courageous enough to embrace the chaos that awaited her in the pages? Or would the truth sink her once and for all? The moment the last paper fluttered to the ground, dread flooded Zoe's mind. The guards advanced, boots heavy on the wooden floor, echoing like funeral bells in the confined space. She had moments, maybe seconds, to decide how to react. "Don't just stand there. Find her." One of the guards barked, eyes finding the scattered papers. The sunlight flickered off the edges, illuminating the chaos running through her own mind. Zoe instinctively shrank back further against the desk, praying her heart wouldn't betray her with its thunderous rhythm. The guards kneeled, collecting the pages with casual disdain, their laughter mingling with the sinister air in the room. It was as if they were savoring her panic, feeding off the fear that radiated from her. "Looks like she was searching for something," the second guard sneered, holding up a sheet, his interest piqued. "What do you think this is?" Zoe's pulse quickened. The truth floated just out of reach, a whisper she was desperate to retrieve. But the longer she stayed hidden, the closer they crept to unlocking her secret. She couldn't let them expose what she knew. Taking a shaky breath, Zoe spotted a heavy metal pipe lying among the debris. It could be weaponized. She considered it briefly, a violent defense or a desperate attack. But she could also slip away while they were distracted. Her choice was made in an instant. With one fluid motion, she lunged for the metal pipe, her fingers curling tightly around its cold surface. The guards were still lost in the discovery of her clues, oblivious to the shift in the shadows. Zoe inhaled deeply, her mind roaring with adrenaline. She would not be cornered like an animal. "Hey, behind you!" One guard shouted suddenly, startled as he caught a movement in the corner of his eye. The second guard turned instinctively. In that moment of confusion, Zoe burst from her hiding place. She swung the pipe with all the strength she could muster, catching the first guard at the side of his head. He collapsed like a marionette with cut strings. Cursing, the second guard lunged for her, but Zoe was quicker. She darted past him, a blur of fear and determination, sprinting toward a narrow doorway at the far end of the room. "Stop her!" the remaining guard yelled, teeth clenched in rage. He didn't follow. Instead, he knelt beside his partner, who groaned on the floor. She dashed through the doorway, bursting into another darkened corridor. The oppressive silence felt eerily comforting, even as her breath hitched in her throat. She had bought herself a few minutes, maybe even more, if lucky. But luck had never been on her side before. With a new sense of urgency, she pushed forward, heart racing. Zoe could feel the walls closing in again, every corner fraught with uncertainty. She had to find a way out of the labyrinthine depths of this place, had to escape the grip of the Billionaire's web before it tightened further. Each door she passed posed both an opportunity and a threat. She stopped and listened, hearing distant voices, the chaos behind her growing like a storm. But then, from up ahead, another door creaked open. Hope flickered within her, but its warmth could be deceiving. Steeling herself, Zoe approached the door, every sense heightened. Was it a way out, or a trap? Suddenly, a girl's voice filtered through the air, a soft, trembling lilt that froze Zoe in place. "Zoe, help me please." Panic crashed over her like a wave. This voice didn't belong to an enemy but to a terrified soul. Who was it? What danger loomed behind that door? Zoe hesitated, the choice carving itself deeper into her conscience. Could she risk her chance for freedom to save someone else? Or was she just a fool in a race against time? Every heartbeat counted, and the door in front of her was about to open wide. What awaited on the other side? The truth, or another layer of darkness? Zoe took a step toward the door, her heart thundering in her chest. The girl's south voice sounded so close, laced with panic. "Zoe, please." It pierced through the haze of fear, piercing her resolve. She hesitated. What did she even know about this girl? But something about that plea tugged at her, igniting a spark of compassion in her chest. Could she really leave someone behind in a place like this? "Hold on," Zoe called out, steeling herself as she pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit room. The sight that met her was both shocking and heart-wrenching. A girl sat against the far wall, ropes tying her wrists and ankles, her eyes wide with terror. The flickering light cast shadows across her face, highlighting the bruises that decorated her cheek. "Who did this?" Zoe exclaimed, rushing forward. She needed to get the girl free. Every second mattered. I don't know," the girl stammered, her voice trembling. "They just came in and took me. I thought I was going to die." Zoe quickly knelt beside her, glancing back toward the door. From the corridor, the distant sounds of footsteps reached her ears, growing louder. They would find her. She needed to hurry. "Can you stand?" Zoe asked, fingers fumbling with the ropes. The girl nodded weakly, and Zoe could feel the urgency oppressive in the air. The knots were tight, but Zoe bit her lip and tugged with all her strength. Every yank felt like it stretched time. Would she be too late? With a final, desperate pull, the ropes loosened, falling away from the girl's wrists. "Thank you," the girl gasped, rubbing her wrists as Zoe looked around the room. It was sparsely furnished, with a single window covered in grime. Escape seemed improbable. "Let us get out of here," Zoe said, heart racing. But then, panic surged as a realization crashed over her. "Wait. What's your name?" "Ella," she replied, her eyes wide with fear. I don't know where we are. How do we get out?" Zoe knew only one thing: they had to move quickly. "We'll figure it out." But first, we need to stick together. Suddenly, the door rattled. Hey! Are you in there? One of the guards, bellowing like a wolf on the hunt, was outside, just as Zoe had feared. "Mon," Zoe urged, grabbing Ella's hand. They had to go. As they burst toward the window, the door slammed open, revealing the guard's furious face. "Stop!" His voice boomed through the room. Zoe didn't look back, adrenaline fueling her movements. She leaped toward the window, pushing it open as she struggled to pull Ella with her. "Jump!" Zoe yelled. They had no choice now. Time stretched impossibly thin as the guard charged at them. Ella hesitated, fear gripping her. "I can't." "Just do it." With a determined shove, Zoe propelled Ella through the window, then followed right after, feeling the cool air rush around her. They tumbled out into the alley below, landing hard on their knees. Zoe glanced back at the window, panting. She could hear the guard shouting inside, spitting out curses that echoed in the night. They had seconds, maybe. "Come on. We can't stop." She pulled Ella to her feet, adrenaline merging with panic as they dashed down the narrow alley, shadows looming around them, but Zoe couldn't shake the feeling that their escape might lead them straight into darker waters. As they raced into the dim streets, the reality of their situation sunk in. Being free was only the beginning. "Do you know where we are?" Zoe asked Ella, desperately needing a direction. But Ella only shook her head, her face pale. Silence fell between them, heavy with dread. With every step they took into the unknown, fear weighed heavily in Zoe's chest. They evaded the guards, but their secrets lurked in the shadows. And as Zoe glanced around, the sensation of being watched crept in. What had they stumbled into? Was freedom as close as it felt, or was danger merely a breath away? The night held its breath, ready to unleash its secrets. Zoe and Ella sprinted into the maze of alleyways, the chill of the night air biting against their skin. Each step seemed to echo in the silence, the shadows wrapping around them like a thick fog. Zoe dared to take a glance over her shoulder, heart racing anew as she half expected the guard's imposing figure to burst from the darkness. "Where are we going?" Ella gasped, her breath coming out in quick, panicked bursts. "I don't know," Zoe admitted, her chest tightening. There was no map in her head, just a desperate need to put distance between them and that wretched room. Just keep running. The anxiety was palpable. It seeped into their bones as the dimly lit streets opened into a small plaza. Neon lights from a distant diner flickered, casting an eerie glow over the cobblestones. For a moment, everything around them felt surreal, as if they had escaped into another world, yet Zoe felt more trapped than ever. "Do you think they saw us?" Ella asked, looking terrified. "I hope not," Zoe replied, scanning the area. Something about the plaza felt wrong. There were too many shadows. "But we can't stick around to find out." They ducked behind a rusting dumpster, the smell of stale garbage overwhelming. Zoe's heart thudded in her ears, drowning out any sound apart from Ella's shallow breaths. "We need a plan," Zoe whispered, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "A safe place to hide. We can't let them catch us." Suddenly, a voice echoed in the distance, muffled but unmistakable. "Check the alleys. They can't have gone far." Zoe's stomach dropped. Panic tightened around her chest. She instinctively pulled Ella deeper into the shadows, both of them pressing against the cool brick wall behind the dumpster. "Who are they?" Zoe murmured, barely above a whisper. Ella's eyes grew wide with fear. They said I was worth something," Ella stammered, her voice shaking. "They were going to sell me what?" Zoe felt sick. "Sell you? To who?" "I don't know the man, he kept talking about a buyer, a rich one." With that revelation, the weight of their situation crashed over Zoe like a tidal wave. They weren't just running from guards, they were fleeing from something much worse, something that thrived on darkness. Let us get out of here, she said, shoving those thoughts aside as urgency flickered back to life. They exited the shadowy refuge of the dumpster and stalked through the plaza, staying low and darting from one hiding spot to the next. The distant hum of the diner provided a sense of normalcy, but Zoe knew the danger was closer than that. Where to? Ella whispered, her face pale and drawn. Zoe squinted, her eyes catching a flicker of movement, two figures emerging from the mouth of a side street. Over there. Zoe pointed to a narrow alley that led deeper into the shadows. They slipped into it just as the figures turned to scan the area. Did you see anything? One of the men called out, their voices growing fainter as Zoe and Ella ducked behind a dilapidated wall. The men appeared frustrated, stomping the ground in rage. Nothing here. Let us check the other end, the other man replied, and their footsteps receded. Zoe exhaled, relief washing over her momentarily. We need to keep moving. But as they hurried deeper into the darkened alley, a new sound caught Zoe's ear. A soft whimper echoed from somewhere nearby. Did you hear that? She asked, instinctively drawn toward the noise. Ella looked terrified. We should keep going. Zoe hesitated. The pit in her stomach churned. What if someone else needed help? Zoe, please. Ella pleaded. We can't risk it. But the whimper came again, desperate and filled with fear. Zoe's heart ached at the sound's fragility. What if it was a victim like Ella, trapped and in trouble? Torn between urgency and compassion, she felt the weight of the choice hanging in the air. Could they rescue another, or would it lead them into a trap? The darkness felt heavier as Zoe stood at the crossroads of decision, the shadows around her thick with uncertainty. Would they walk away, or would this moment define their fate? Zoe's heart wavered, caught in a storm of indecision. The whimper echoed again, and she could almost feel its desperation like a physical force tugging at her. Okay, just a quick peek, she murmured, stepping away from the wall, leaving Ella behind. She moved cautiously, the air thick with tension. Every shadow held secrets, and the darkness wrapped around her like a shroud. Zoe, don't. Ella whispered urgently, but Zoe was already rounding the corner, drawn forward by the sound. Each step felt like a contract with the unknown, pulsing with fear and curiosity. The alley opened up into a small, grimy space. A flickering street lamp revealed the outline of a figure huddled against the cold brick wall. A girl, no older than they were, knelt with her arms wrapped around her knees, her blonde hair falling over her face like a curtain. She was trembling, and when she glanced up, the desperation in her wide eyes nearly broke Zoe's heart. Help please, the girl whimpered, her voice raw and laced with fear. Beneath her dirt-streaked face, there was an innocence that struck a chord deep within Zoe. We can't, Ella hissed, pulling Zoe back. We can't help her. We have to go. Zoe hesitated, torn. What if she's in the same situation as you? What if Zoe, she could be a trap? You don't know who they are. What if those men come back? Ella glanced nervously at the entrance to the alley, her face pale, shadows dancing across her features. The girl's trembling voice broke through their argument. Please, I just need to get out of here. I don't want to go back. They what? Zoe asked gently, sensing the girl's mounting panic. The girl pressed her hands to her cheeks and sobbed, they sell me too. Something tightened around Zoe's heart. Selling? The very thought echoed Ella's earlier words, pushing against the walls of her understanding. The maze of shadows held more than just fear tonight, it harbored a reality darker than she feared. Help her, Zoe, Ella urged, fear creeping into her voice. But we can't reveal ourselves, stay hidden. Zoe knew the stakes were high, and the choice loomed heavy. She needed a plan. Look, what's your name? She asked the girl, who now seemed to glance between them, eyes wide with confusion. Lily, she whispered, shifting against the brick wall. Listen, Lily. We're going to help you, Zoe said with a determination that surprised even her. But you need to do exactly what we say. Can you do that? Lily nodded slightly, wiping tears from her cheeks, a flicker of hope igniting in her expression. Okay, first, let us get out of this alley. We can't draw attention to ourselves, Zoe instructed. She turned back to Ella, who stood frozen, her eyes practically bulging in disbelief. You have to trust me, Ella. We can't leave her here. A heavy silence fell. They could hear faint shouts echoing from the plaza, the guards still searching. Fine, Ella bit out. But if anything goes wrong at 1T, Zoe promised, though her heart raced at the uncertainty. They moved quickly, Zoe motioning for Lily to follow her. Slipping from the shadows, they crept further into the darkness of the alley. But as they maneuvered around a corner, the sound of footsteps resonated close by. Zoe's breath caught in her throat. Hide! She urged, as they pressed against the damp wall. But just as they ducked down, a flashlight beam sliced through the night, illuminating them with blistering intensity. Hey! A voice barked from the other side. Zoe's heart pounded. Their moment of choice felt suddenly monumental. Would they face the approaching danger together, or would this be their end? Run! She whispered. Would her bravery be enough to shield them this time, or was danger a mere heartbeat away? The echo of approaching figures closed in, a threat that felt inescapable. As they bolted into the darkness, Zoe felt the weight of choices she never wanted to make. What horrors awaited them beyond the alley, and would they escape the encroaching nightmare? The adrenaline surged through Zoe as they sprinted away from the blinding light and fierce voices behind them. The dim alley stretched on, twisting into hidden corners, an unfathomable labyrinth that felt like a trap closing in. She could hear Ella's ragged breaths, almost merging with her own, and sensed Lily keeping pace at her side. The weight of their shared fear felt heavier than anything she'd ever held before. Keep going. Zoe urged, pushing them forward, desperate to escape the tightening grip of danger. She had no clear plan but relied on pure instinct. They rounded another corner, and the shadows deepened, creating a false sense of security. Zoe, where are we going? Ella gasped, her eyes wide with panic. What if they catch us? We need to get somewhere safe, Zoe insisted, adrenaline fueling her determination, even as her own nerves screamed for rest. Suddenly, a grating sound came from behind them, voices now closer than before, a chorus of anger mingled with authority. Stay quiet, she shot back, heart racing. There must be an exit around here. Lily's frail figure trembled beside them. I can't keep going, panic surged as Zoe grabbed Lily by the arm, fierce and protective. We can't stop. They've got to be close. Taking a moment, Zoe scanned their surroundings. They stumbled upon a shadowy doorway. Without a second thought, she threw the door open, revealing a dim stairwell leading down. This way. Once seated, they quickly descended. Zoe continued to urge them onward as each step felt like a gamble against the clock. The air grew cooler as they reached the bottom, the shadows deepening into a thick veil. They found themselves in a musty cellar. The scent of dampness and decay hung unpredictably heavy. We can hide here, Zoe whispered, pressing them against a wall stacked with old crates, their hearts pounding like jackhammers echoing their fears. Do you really think this is safe? Ella whispered, glancing nervously at the darkness surrounding them. It has to be. Just breathe, okay? Zoe's voice emerged steadier, sounding braver than she felt. Moments stretched like hours as they held their breath. From above, footfalls grew louder. The guards were searching each level, calling out into the void. Every voluminous shout pounded against Zoe's chest, the tension was palpable. Suddenly, a flashlight beam pierced through the cracks above, illuminating their hiding place. Zoe's stomach twisted. Please, God, she whispered, pressing against the cold wood of the crates. The beam swept over, the shadow of a boot only moments away. Lily clutched Zoe's arm, eyes wide in terror. There was a chance they could be overlooked in the chaos. Or they could be caught, the debt of fear paid with their lives. Nothing here. The guard shouted, stepping away from the stairs. Zoe let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding, but the danger wasn't over. We need to move again, she said, her voice a mere hush. As they approached the exit of the cellar, Zoe felt the weight of their own lives hanging in the balance. Freedom lay beyond the door, but so did more shadows and dangers. Whatever awaited them up top was uncertain, but it felt better than succumbing to the suffocating silence beneath. On 3. 1, 2 Zoe whispered, glancing at the girls. 3. They burst from the cellar into the faintly lit street outside. The cool rush of air hit them like a slap, it was both terrifying and exhilarating. Now what? Ella gasped, scanning the quiet, deserted street. Zoe scanned the area, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. There has to be a place nearby where we can call for help, she urged, heart racing at the prospect. A diner, a gas station, something. They pushed forward, decisions unfolding with every step. But as they turned a corner, a familiar voice rang out from behind the billionaire's voice seething with anger. They can't have gone far. Panic ignited again as Zoe glanced at the girls. Run. Find cover. They sprinted down an alley rich with shadows. The rhythmic echo of footsteps followed them. Zoe didn't dare look back. Driven by instinct alone. They all pressed on, united by fear but driven by hope. Suddenly, a glimmer of light emerged ahead, a street lit up with life. Zoe led the way towards it, bursting into the brightness of a small diner, the warm, welcoming light like an embrace around them. Help! Zoe shouted, rushing inside with Ella and Lily close behind. The diner seemed to freeze, heads turning, faces of patrons turning curious and concerned. A waitress hurried over. What happened? Please, we're being chased. We need help. Zoe implored, her breath ragged and labored. The waitress seemed to see the fear knocking around their eyes. You're safe here, she assured, leading them to the counter away from the door. Well, hello. What can I get for you girls? An older gentleman behind the counter smiled warmly, but Zoe could see that the tension still flowed like an electric current beneath the surface. Please, Zoe said, tightening her grip on the girls. They're coming who? He arched an eyebrow, the concern etched across his features deepening. The men chasing us. The guards. Just as she spoke, the door swung open with a bang, and in poured the shadowy figures, the billionaire stepping in behind, imposing and fierce. There they are. He barked, his presence filling the small diner with a cold stillness. Plates clattered as patrons backed away, whispering frantically. Yet something unexpected happened. The diner erupted with a collective roar, patrons began to stand up. Perhaps it was instinct, or perhaps it was empathy, the thirst for justice had awakened. You won't touch them. A burly man yelled, fists raised protectively. Zoe felt a surge of daring, emboldened by the unexpected yet courageous crowd. At that moment, she realized something profound: they weren't alone. They never had been. Help us! She shouted again, this time with renewed hope. We have to stop him, he's dangerous. In a flash, chairs scraped against the ground as the patrons surged forward around them. The billionaire's eyes flickered with uncertainty, as the realization of numbers struck him. Get out of my way! He roared, but the diner rallied, melting into a protective throng. Not today. The waitress stood firmly, arms crossed defiantly. Get lost. They found their sanctuary in a world that had felt so dark, illuminated by the very individuals who had shared their fears. Zoe, Ella, and Lily leaned into the safety of the crowd, fortifying their strength within the bond they had formed through hardship. A place where they could expose the truth together, a chance to finally break free, and as Zoe glanced at the faces around her, she felt hope ignite within, not just for them, but for every other lost soul, blending into the unrelenting shadows, seeking the light. This time, they would shine together. So, what are you waiting for? Now that you've seen how courage can shine through the darkest of times, you need to subscribe immediately. Join this journey and don't miss the next heart-pounding story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us spread the word. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and feelings about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see how this concludes. This is the moment to show your support.